Good afternoon, viewers. You find me outside Charing Cross Station because just over there behind the camera is Trafalgar Square, and there's something in Trafalgar Square that isn't technically even in this country. Let's go and have a look. Over there is the Georgian splendour of St Martin's in the Fields. I should say, if anybody wants me to visit any churches when I'm in London, you simply got to say, tell me the church you'd like me to visit, maybe a quick reason why, and I will put a visit into that church and make a film. As you can see, we are still here today in Trafalgar Square. Now this is a square set aside to celebrate one of our greatest ever victories. And yet, in this very square where we celebrate that victory, there is also something that celebrates, in a kind of way, our worst ever defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the statue to George Washington. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to do this in a voiceover because, as you can hear in the background, there's a tone-deaf busker singing horrible music, so it'll all be done on the voiceover later. Sorry about that.
So why, I hear you ask, is there a statue to George Washington here? Well, the answer's quite simple. It was a gift. The statue was donated by an American group called the Soulgrave Institution, who were named after the Washington ancestral home Soulgrave Manor, which is in Northampton, about 60 miles north of London. The idea was mooted in the early 1900s, but the outbreak of the First World War got in the way, and it wasn't until 1921 that the Virginians renewed the offer to send a statue to London. This is the original statue as it stands in the Virginia State Building. It differs in that this one is made from marble and is life-size, which makes it quite impressive because good old GW was quite tall, so it makes it a large statue. The statue is dated 1788 and was created by Jean-Antoine Houdon. I do apologise for my French. He was chosen by none other than Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin, one of the original founding fathers, who just happened to live round the corner in Craven Street. We'll go there for another video, I think. And so in 1921, the statue started on its journey across the Atlantic, and it was accompanied by a small delegation led by none other than Dr. Henry Smith, who several years earlier had successfully made America's first X-ray. The delegation arrived in London in June 1921 and were immediately ushered into an audience with King George V. A few days later, at a dinner to welcome the delegation and the statue, the head speaker, Winston Churchill, toasted the statue, and he also spoke of the friendship between the two nations. Sadly, his American mother Jenny died the very next day. The statue was unveiled a couple of weeks later on the 30th of June 1921 at midday. They draped the statue with an American flag, and a very large crowd turned up to see it revealed, as shown on these shots taken by Pathé News. Lord Curzon welcomed the statue and stated that we ought never to quarrel again, in what was a direct reference to the War of Independence. Back then, in 1921, there were still guys like these, the veterans of the American Civil War. Dressed in their original uniform, they laid wreaths at the statue. In the statue, Washington can be seen leaning on 13 rods. These are actually fasces, which is a Roman symbol of power and authority, and the 13 rods here represent the original 13 colonies. Having led the War of Independence, Washington was no fan of the British, and it was reportedly said that he would never set foot on English soil ever again. So the story goes that the Soulgrave Institution keen to respect his wishes, brought with them soil from Virginia. This was placed down first with the statue on top. So technically, to this day, George Washington stands on American soil here, right in the middle of London.
I'd just like to say, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you've learnt something about the George Washington statue behind me. I didn't know about it. Jeff told me about this and pointed it out, so I thought I'd come down here and share it with you. But there he is, George, sitting on American soil here in Trafalgar Square. I think that's a pretty good story, don't you? Bye for now. Oh, he's starting again. Oh God.